Have you ever felt something inside you crying out for attention? That vulnerable part you locked away years ago? Perhaps you've heard it in your dreams, or maybe it appears when you're about to make an important decision. That voice is no coincidence. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant analytical psychologists of all time, would call it your inner child, that essential part of your psyche that contains all the purity, creativity, and feminine potential you've been seeking externally. Today we're going to embark on a transformative journey, a journey many women fear starting, but one that changes the lives of those who dare to undertake it. Healing your inner child isn't just an abstract psychological concept, it's the reunion with your most authentic feminine essence, the one the world perhaps taught you to silence. The meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow. These words from Jung reveal a profound truth. To heal our inner child, we must first dare to look within, into those spaces that cause us discomfort. Those wounds we've covered with layers of social adaptation, external expectations, and masks we use to survive. Think for a moment, how many times have you silenced your voice to avoid bothering others? How many times have you ignored your deepest desires to please others? Jung understood that this abandonment of our authentic self isn't just an individual problem, but a pattern deeply rooted in our collective society, especially for women. The inner child represents that pure part of you that existed before the world told you who you should be. That child who played freely, who expressed herself without fear of judgment, who dreamed without limits. Over time, as we grow, many of us learn to silence that voice. We learn that being good means being compliant, that being mature means abandoning our wildest dreams, that being women means putting everyone else first. And so gradually, that inner child becomes a shadow, in Jung's words, a repressed part of our psyche that, though we try to ignore it, continues to influence our life in ways we don't even understand. Those unexplainable reactions to certain situations, that feeling of emptiness even when everything seems to be going well, that constant search for something you cannot name, all of that is your inner child asking to be recognized, asking to be healed. Jung spoke of the individuation process as the path toward complete integration of all aspects of our psyche. It's not just about achieving success according to social standards, but about gathering all the fragmented parts of our being to become a coherent and authentic whole. And for women, this process inevitably passes through reconciliation with our feminine essence, the one encoded in our inner child. Why is this reunion so difficult? Because it implies unlearning everything we've been taught about what it means to be a woman. It implies questioning the patriarchal structures that have systematically devalued feminine qualities, labeling them as weak or irrational. It implies embracing our intuition, our emotionality, our sensitivity, not as flaws to overcome, but as powerful tools of perception and connection. Jung understood that in every woman dwells an animus, the internal representation of the masculine, just as in every man dwells an anima, the representation of the feminine. But our society has glorified the masculine while denigrating the feminine, leading many women to disconnect from their own essence, to adopt masculine values and behaviors that are more acceptable or respected. This disconnection has an enormous cost. It manifests as a constant feeling that something is missing, as relationships that never seem to satisfy our deepest needs, as life decisions that, though logical on paper, leave us feeling empty. Jung would see it as a fundamental imbalance, a denial of an essential part of our totality. The good news is that your inner child never really left. She is waiting, patiently, for you to remember who you truly are, for you to reconnect with that part of you that knows how to play, that feels deeply, that creates without worrying about perfection, that loves without reservations. That reconnection is the path to your spiritual healing, to reclaiming your feminine power in its purest form. And how do we begin this healing journey? Jung would offer us a clear answer: through the conscious descent into our unconscious, through careful observation of our dreams, our seemingly irrational reactions, our repetitive patterns. All these are clues, signals our psyche sends us to guide us toward the parts of ourselves that need attention and care. One of the most powerful tools Jung left us for this inner work is active imagination. This technique allows us to establish a conscious dialogue with the figures that inhabit our unconscious, including our inner child. Imagine being able to sit in front of that younger version of yourself and ask her, "What do you need? What dreams did you set aside? What wounds remain open?" This dialogue, though it may seem imaginary, has a deeply transformative power. When you allow yourself to listen to your inner child, uncomfortable truths begin to emerge. Perhaps you discover that you've been living according to the expectations of your parents, or your partner, or society in general. Perhaps you realize that the decisions you've made don't reflect your most authentic desires, but what you believed you should do to be accepted, loved, valued. This recognition can be painful. It can bring to the surface emotions you've repressed for years. Sadness, anger, resentment. Jung taught us that these emotions are not enemies to avoid, but messengers bringing valuable information. When we allow them to express themselves, when we give them space to be fully felt, they begin to free us from their grip. It's important to understand that this process isn't about blaming others for our wounds. Jung was clear about individual responsibility in our own development. Although he recognized the profound impact of family and society on our psychic formation, he also emphasized our power to rewrite our history, to integrate our experiences in new ways that promote our growth and healing. Healing your inner child essentially involves becoming the mother that child needed. It involves offering her unconditional love, validation, protection that she perhaps didn't receive. Not because your parents were necessarily bad or negligent, but because all parents are human, limited by their own wounds and conditioning. Now, as an adult, you have the power to give that part of you what it needs to flourish. This is profound inner work, but its effects are clearly manifested in the external world. As you heal your inner child, your relationships change. You no longer seek in others the love and validation you've learned to give yourself. You no longer attract dynamics that reflect your unresolved wounds. You begin to establish healthy boundaries, to communicate your needs clearly, to choose relationships that nourish your soul instead of draining your energy. Jung spoke of the shadow as those rejected parts of ourselves, those qualities, desires, and emotions we've considered unacceptable and pushed into the unconscious. For many women, fundamental aspects of their femininity have been relegated to the shadow. Their power, their anger, their sexuality, their ambition. Healing the inner child means reclaiming these parts, consciously integrating them into our identity. This process of integration isn't easy or quick. Like all true change, it occurs in a spiral, not a straight line. There will be days when you'll feel you've advanced enormously, and others when the old wounds will seem as fresh as ever. Jung teaches us to be patient with ourselves, to understand that the psyche has its own rhythm, its own wisdom about when we are ready to face certain truths. A clear sign that you're advancing on this path is synchronicity, another fundamental concept in Jungian psychology. You'll begin to notice meaningful coincidences, encounters, situations, and symbols that seem to appear just when you need them, guiding you toward your next step on the path. This isn't coincidence, but a manifestation of the deep connection between your internal world and the external one. As your inner child heals, your intuition strengthens. That innate wisdom that Jung considered especially powerful in women begins to guide your decisions. You learn to trust your instincts, to value your internal knowledge as much as the information you receive from the outside. You begin to perceive life not only through the filter of intellect, but also through the heart, the body, the spirit. Creativity is another gift we receive by healing our inner child. Jung saw creative expression as a direct path to the collective unconscious, that reservoir of symbols, archetypes, and ancestral wisdom we share as humanity. When we reconnect with our inner child, we access that infinite spring of inspiration and authentic expression. This reconnection with our feminine essence doesn't mean rejecting the masculine, neither within nor outside of us. Jung firmly believed in the need to integrate both energies to achieve wholeness. But for many women, The first step is to reclaim the feminine, to give it the value and space it deserves in our consciousness before being able to reach a true balance. The archetype of the Great Mother is central to this process. Jung described this archetype as the manifestation of the feminine in its most powerful and complete form, nurturing and fierce, creative and destructive, loving and terrible. As we heal our inner child, we begin to embody aspects of this archetype in our own life, recognizing both our power to nurture and to establish boundaries, both our capacity to love and to defend what we love. What does this mean in practical terms? It means learning to listen to and honor your natural cycles, your needs for rest and activity, for connection and solitude. It means validating your emotions without judging them, allowing yourself to fully feel both joy and pain, excitement and calm. It means cultivating relationships that respect your truth, that celebrate your authenticity, that encourage you to be more yourself, not less. It also means confronting the fears that inevitably arise when we begin to live from our essence. The fear of rejection, the fear of being too much, the fear of disappointing those who have grown accustomed to our compliant and adapted version. Jung would say these fears are thresholds, guardians protecting valuable treasures. By daring to cross them, we access deeper levels of freedom and authenticity. One of the most common barriers on this path is guilt. Many women have been conditioned to put everyone else's needs before their own, to the point of feeling guilty when they finally begin to honor themselves. Jung would understand this guilt as a symptom of a dysfunctional pattern, not as a sign that you're doing something wrong. In fact, it's often a sign that you're doing exactly what you need to heal. As you advance on this healing journey, it's crucial to surround yourself with mirrors that reflect your truth, not your wounds. This means seeking communities, friendships, mentors who understand and support your process, who can hold space for your transformation without trying to push you back into old patterns for their own comfort. Jung emphasized the importance of these authentic connections in our development. Remember that the goal isn't perfection, but integrity. Jung taught us that true fullness comes not from eliminating our negative aspects, but from consciously integrating them, from understanding their purpose and transforming their energy. Your inner child doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be real, present, loving even, and especially with your wounded parts. This process of spiritual healing has ripple effects that go far beyond your individual experience. Jung firmly believed in the concept of the collective unconscious, the idea that we are all connected at a deep level, sharing archetypes, symbols, and psychic patterns. When you heal your inner child, you contribute to the collective healing of the feminine, too long repressed and devalued in our culture. Have you noticed how when a woman in a group begins to speak her truth, to establish healthy boundaries, to honor her intuition, she creates space for others to do the same? This is the contagious power of feminine authenticity. Each woman who dares to reclaim her essence creates a crack in the wall of conditioning that has kept so many trapped in limiting roles and suffocating expectations. Jung would remind us that this inner work isn't a luxury or an indulgence, but an urgent spiritual necessity, both for the individual and the collective. In a world facing unprecedented crises, we desperately need the rebalancing of energies that can come only when the feminine is honored in its totality. When the qualities traditionally associated with the feminine, intuition, collaboration, empathy, regeneration, are valued as much as those associated with the masculine. Now let me ask you, what aspects of your inner child have you been ignoring? What parts of your feminine essence have you sacrificed to fit in, to survive, to be accepted? What messages did you receive about what it means to be a woman, and which of those messages no longer serve you? Perhaps it's time to sit in silence and listen. To ask that part of you what she needs to feel safe, loved, free to express herself. To offer her the space she never had to play, to dream, to be exactly who she is without pressures or expectations. For Jung, this active listening, this conscious attention, is the beginning of all true healing. A powerful practice Jung would recommend is paying attention to your dreams. Dreams are, in Jungian psychology, direct messages from the unconscious. a bridge to the parts of ourselves we cannot easily access in a waking state. Keep a dream journal next to your bed, and each morning, before the worries of the day take control, record what you remember. Over time, you'll begin to notice patterns, recurring symbols, figures that represent aspects of your psyche seeking attention and integration. Another valuable tool is expressive art. Jung was a great advocate of art as a path to healing, so much so that even in his own therapeutic practice, he encouraged his patients to draw, paint, sculpt as a way of expressing unconscious content. It's not about creating good art according to external criteria, but about allowing your inner child to express herself freely without judgment or expectations. Nature can also be a powerful ally in this process. Jung observed a deep connection between the feminine and natural cycles, between the human psyche and the natural world. Spending conscious time in nature, observing its rhythms, its processes of death and rebirth, can offer profound metaphors and teachings for your own healing journey. It's important to remember that this work isn't something you do once and finish. It's an ongoing process, a constant dance between consciousness and unconsciousness, between the known and the unknown. Jung taught us that the psyche is in constant evolution, that there are always new layers to discover, new aspects of ourselves waiting to be integrated. Healing your inner child is a life journey, not a destination. As you advance on this path, you'll notice subtle but profound changes in how you relate to yourself and the world. The relentless criticism toward yourself begins to give way to genuine compassion. The exhaustion of trying to be who you think you should be is replaced by the energy that naturally arises when you live from your authenticity. Relationships based on dependency or control begin to transform or dissolve, making space for healthier and more nourishing connections. Jung believed that each of us has a unique purpose, a specific contribution to make to the world. He called this our personal myth, the story we are here to live, the gift we are here to offer. Healing your inner child brings you closer to clarity about your own personal myth, to understanding your purpose that goes beyond social roles or external expectations. When you finally dare to live from your essence, when you allow your inner child to express herself through you, something magical happens. Life begins to flow in a way that previously seemed impossible. Obstacles that once seemed insurmountable reveal themselves as opportunities for growth. Decisions that once tormented you become clear. Not because life becomes perfect or free from challenges, but because now you are aligned with your truth, navigating from your center instead of from your wounds. This is the gift of spiritual healing of your inner child, the reunion with your feminine essence in all its power and beauty. Not the limited and distorted version that society has validated, but the wild, wise, and wonderful totality you have always been, under all the layers of conditioning and adaptation. Jung would remind us that this journey is not only personal, but also collective. Each woman who dares to reclaim her truth, to honor her intuition, to live from her essence, contributes to the healing of the collective wound of the feminine. She creates space for others to do the same. She models a different way of being a woman, in a world that desperately needs the rebalancing that can only come when the feminine is fully valued. Are you ready to undertake this journey? To listen to the voice of your inner child? To offer her the love, protection, and validation she has always deserved? To reclaim your feminine essence in all its power and beauty? The path won't always be easy, but I promise you, it will be the most liberating and transformative you've ever undertaken. The invitation is here now. You don't need special tools, titles, or certifications to begin. You only need the courage to look within, to listen with an open heart, to embrace all the parts of you that you've been denying or repressing. Your inner child has been waiting all this time, waiting for you to remember who you really are, beyond all roles and masks, waiting for you to reclaim the magic, wisdom, and power that are your inheritance as a woman. If this message has resonated deep within your being, if you felt that inner movement that recognizes a truth you already knew, but perhaps had forgotten, I invite you to share your experience in the comments. What aspects of your inner child are you rediscovering? What steps are you taking to heal your relationship with the feminine in you? Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear to begin her own healing journey. And if this content has brought you value, I ask you to share it with the women in your life who might benefit from hearing it. Sometimes, all we need to take the first step is knowing we're not alone, that others are walking similar paths, facing similar fears, discovering similar truths. Remember that each step you take toward your own healing is also a step toward collective healing. As Jung said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Your inner child is waiting for you to make that choice, to choose to remember and reclaim the fullness of who you really are. And when you do, you will not only transform your own life, but contribute to transforming the world. Thank you for being here, for listening with an open heart, for your willingness to look within. The journey of rediscovering your feminine essence through healing your inner child is perhaps the most important you will ever undertake. And though it may sometimes feel lonely or challenging, remember that you are part of a greater movement, a collective awakening of the feminine that is happening all over the world. If you liked this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future content about deep psychology, spiritual healing, and the transformative power of living from your authenticity. Your support allows me to continue creating this type of content and reach more women who are searching for these truths. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the depths of the human psyche and discovering together the power of living from our most authentic truth. Remember, your inner child is the guardian of your feminine essence. When you heal her, you heal yourself. And when you heal yourself, you contribute to healing the world.